The silence is just as important as the notes that you're playing. So having that proper time of quiet makes it so that is ever so much more satisfying. You get out here on a road like this and you don't care about the spec sheets. You don't care about where you're making the power, what the power figures are, how much weight you're moving. It just works. This Lexus RCF coupe has essentially been the same for the last 8 years, and that is part of what makes it such a good car. You hear all sorts of news about things like the new Mustang pushing nearly 500 horsepower, over 500 horsepower in the new Dark Horse trim, but they don't tell you it's costing nearly $60,000. And you've got the new BMW this, and the new Audi that, and Mercedes this, whereas Lexus has just kept on soldiering with a very simple formula. 2 doors, an awesome 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 engine in the front, making 472 horsepower, remarkably capable handling dynamics, and striking, if a bit polarizing, appearance, especially in this flare yellow color. I, for one, am a huge fan. We've spent time with the RCF out here in beautiful California. We did some awesome driving with it throughout the week, which I'm going to tell you about here in a moment. But we've also had this car out on track back in Michigan. In fact, we did a track day where we had this and an Acura NSX, you know, big, super fancy hybrid sports car, supercar, everything like that. And we flogged those cars for hours and hours and hours in the hot, hot heat. Even the NSX, by the end of the day, started throwing codes, but not the Lexus. So, despite this car right here in front of us costing about $90,000 and being heavier and slower than a lot of cars for that price, and having a little bit of outdated infotainment and a lot of on-paper cons, I think this is one of the best used car performance bargains out there right now, and for a lot of people, especially if you spec it wisely, one of the best new car purchases you can make in the sporty car segment as well. So let's go get behind the wheel and talk about why. In its configuration as we have it here, this is not the track edition, it's not the one that starts at the crazy 6-figure price tag. We've got Pilot Sport 4S Performance Summer tires, and as I said, this flare yellow paint, as well as a carbon package. Gets us this carbon fiber roof, adjustable carbon fiber spoiler that's going to come up, carbon fiber splitter up front, a lot of carbon bits inside, as well as a lot of creature comforts. So the package itself is about $17,000, but it does get you, it gets you some of the things you need and some of the things you don't. Personally speaking, I wouldn't get the carbon package, but I would get some of the things that it gives you, like the heated and cooled seats and heated steering wheel, and but I could probably leave some of the carbon bits outside, even though they do look cool. Some of the things you're going to notice right away in here are blasts from the past. At the end of the day, aside from a facelift, the RC comes from the mid-2010s. So you have things like a CD player, but you also have things that are nice, like a cool gauge cluster and a 17-speaker Mark 11 sound system, of which you can see a review in the link below. And for 2023, they've made it so you are not relegated to just using this touchpad to control the 10.3-inch touchscreen. It is a touchscreen. It is not just an screen anymore. You can reach up and touch it to activate your Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, or any of the built-in functionality. Ladies and gentlemen, I just have to say, and I know this is going to come up a lot throughout this review, but for me, I want life to be as simple as possible. So even if I want to have something that is sporty and fun and cool and capable, I don't want all of the complexities that go on top of that. The turbocharging, the strict maintenance intervals, the potential unreliability. I would like to have something like this that I know that I could get into any morning, go beat the crap out of, whether it's on track, in the canyons, cruising through traffic, doesn't matter. It's going to provide me a lot of satisfaction, and then I'm just put it away at the end of the day. I'm going to keep up on my oil changes and factory maintenance, and the car is going to take care of me if I take care of it. That's probably a little bit more underrated in this segment of vehicle, where a lot of people are craving the newest and coolest and the most look at me. But for someone like me who cares more about the driving experience than about the kind of flashiness and the ownership experience, this car really does it. And despite it not being the newest and the coolest kid on the block, because it was never really that popular of a car, it actually stands out a good bit when you take it to events. We had this car at an awesome event hosted by Christ in Cars out here in Southern California, and we were running with some amazing pieces of four-wheel machinery. Lamborghini Murcielago, Ferrari 4, you name it, 5.8, 8.8, 430. We had, what else? Some really, really impressive cars, McLarens and all sorts of really cool things. And the RC was still getting attention because not only is it in a pretty loud color like this, but you just don't see them very often. So when you've got this sea of exotic cars and all of a sudden you plop a yellow thing in it like this, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, what is that? Ironically enough, by people not really caring about the RC, it's made it so that people care about the RC, especially more enthusiast type people, when they see it in person. We're heading out to some of the excellent canyon driving roads here near our place in Southern California, but the cool thing is while you're getting there, you're in a proper Lexus cabin. This car is quiet, it's comfortable. We spent hours in it on the highway and in various driving situations throughout the weekend, and it's a nice place to be for two individuals sitting up here in the front. Now, if you're going to be in the back seats, you're going to want to be quite a bit smaller in order to be comfortable. But up here, we're dealing with not only things like heated and cooled seats, but the type of cooled seats that when you have them on, even on full blast, you barely hear them. This is something that a lot of people don't quite realize about the meanings of luxury here in 2023. Perfect example. Alyssa just recently got a Chevy Bolt EUV as her daily driver. Great. I love that little car. It works well for a daily sort of vehicle, and it was well within our price point. It was a comfortable sort of purchase, and it made sense as a daily driver car. She wanted to get ventilated seats in it, so we opted for the package that gets you ventilated seats. But even on the first level of ventilation, they're so loud, you barely feel it blowing air, and yet you hear this whooshing of air the whole time. It sounds like you have your fan settings on your HVAC at medium. This car, I've got the air blasting, and I'm virtually cold on my butt right now, and yet you don't even hear it. The subtleties are what you don't read on the spec sheet, but that's what just separates a luxury car from a non-luxury car here in 2023. Light steering, premium materials, quality aspects of how everything works in this cabin. Little bit of noise coming out of that 5-liter V8 right there. It's not begging you to push it, but it's just reminding you that it's there. Also, take a look down here. Not an ounce of piano black that's going to scratch up or look bad after years of daily use. I bet you could get into one of these listed on Auto Trader for $40,000, and even if it's got 100,000 miles on it, the interior is still going to look pretty darn good. Not only because it's built with quality materials and sensible materials, but also because the type of people who purchased RCFs new are going to be the type of people who treat them well and take care of them. And that goes into why I think this is such a fantastic used car buy. I know Lexus is going to want me to be telling you to go out and purchase one of these new, and by all means, if you have the means, I think it's a great buy. But for a lot of us, it's the used car value that really does it. And the fact that I went on Auto Trader before shooting this video and checked to see what these are going for. You can pick them up certified pre-owned for, I think, about like high 4s, but lower 5s, but well-spec'd models. And then you can get used ones, just straight up kind of private party sort of deals for the mid-30s. And that, for getting a 470 some horsepower, naturally aspirated, high revving V8 that's going to last and has been owned and maintained well and is going to continue to work well over the years, that is just so awesome to me. As I was changing lanes there, I got a little blind spot warning pop up, and that reminds me that for 2023, all of the Lexus RCs, not only the Fs, but even the basic ones, are coming with the Toyota, or in this case, Lexus Safety Suite 2.5, I believe it's called, or Lexus Sensing Suite, or whatever it's called. What it means is that it's giving you a ton of standard safety features, things like that lane departure warning and the blind spot monitoring and automatic emergency braking, and a lot of things that are going to keep you safe and keep your car safe over your entire ownership experience. I've been so impressed by how quiet this car is from a wind noise perspective. We had to drive about half an hour away on the highway to get to our destination this weekend, and it was early morning. We had some music going calmly, and it was like this. I mean, it was a serene experience, and it was cool because I knew that later in the day we were going to be putting it into Sport Plus mode and opening up this V8, and it was the silence was just as important as the noise. That's something that my music instructor used to tell me way back in the day in my high school band years, is that the silence is just as important as the notes that you're playing. So having that proper time of quiet makes it so that is ever so much more satisfying. Now that we're getting into a little bit more higher speed performance sort of driving, I'm going to leave the interior luxury bits behind a little bit to get a little bit more technical. Ooh, let's see if we can make this light. Nice. Oh, the brakes are so good in this car. So smooth. This is rocking an 8-speed automatic transmission, and typically speaking, I prefer 8 speeds over 10 speeds. I think 8 is just the right amount of gears for most modern engines. However, Lexus's 10-speed automatic transmission that they use in the LC500 is better than this 8-speed. So I would like to have that transmission in here. It's not the end of the world. This isn't awful. This transmission is lazier and not as sharp and satisfying as the 10-speed in the LC500. I'd like to know why they're different. Maybe it's just because this car is older and it was designed before the 10-speed came out, and it would simply cost too much and not be worthwhile to put the 10-speed in here. I totally get that, but yeah, it would be nice to have. What's interesting is this is the most powerful naturally aspirated V8, or really just most powerful V8 that Lexus has ever made. It makes 1 more horsepower than the same motor in the LC500. It's kind of fun. A few different drive modes. We're in normal now. We've got eco over to the left. That gives you sort of an eco indicator depending on how much you're pressing the accelerator. But going over to the right, it's giving us Sport and Sport Plus. Sport was actually necessary to use throughout our week with this car because there were times that I needed to liven up the automatic transmission. I didn't feel like shifting on my own, but I needed it to kind of be a little bit snappier than it was in normal mode. But I didn't need the full aggression that we're getting right there out of Sport Plus. But if you're going to drive it hard, you might as well go all the way up into Sport Plus. It's funny how some of the things that we had in cars back just 8 years ago are things that we might have taken for granted, like physical volume knobs and climate control functionality, even sometimes like an analog clock. Those aspects that make having a car like this more usable, but weren't necessarily the case not too long ago. Manual shifting can be done either from the center shifter or some decently responsive paddles. Gosh, this is just the right amount of power to actually be able to use in daily driving. As cars add more and more peak horsepower, it gets to the point that you can't actually utilize all that power without going ridiculously illegal speeds right away. But not only do you get to use the power in the RC, but you get to hear it and feel it too. I don't care how fast I'm going if it feels cool and I'm having a good time doing it. And it's so easy to feel cool in this car because of the sounds it makes. You get out here on a road like this and you don't care about the spec sheets. You don't care about where you're making the power, what the power figures are, how much weight you're moving. It just works. Woohoo! Got the traction control in expert mode now, so not fully off, but it is allowing a little bit of tail happiness, and the RCF is plenty happy to get tail happy. How many new cars sound as good as that? Tell me what sounds better, and don't say the Lexus LC500. I know it's only a matter of time before we get the news that Lexus is going to drop the RCF. Probably the whole RC line, really. I mean, maybe eventually it'll come back as some sort of electric vehicle, but the fact that they haven't done anything with the model in quite some time, I mean, yes, there's the if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of mentality, but also, how many people are buying luxury coupes like this anymore? And I know I'm glad they're still making it now because I do genuinely enjoy this car, and I think a lot of people should give it more thought than they do. But for now, you just got to enjoy it for what it is and don't worry about what it isn't. One last look at that great flare yellow paint that sets off nicely with the black carbon fiber package, although the red brake calipers do give it a little bit of a ketchup and mustard sort of look, or kind of a McDonald's spec, as Alyssa and I have joked a bit. But there it is, the Lexus RCF, a car that I'm very happy to have gotten to spend more time with. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the RC, check the link in the description, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, 5-liter V8 on.